The 8 proven signs you're a highly attractive older woman. People often talk about beauty as if it has an expiration date. Like somehow, after a certain age, your shine starts to fade. But here's the truth: attractiveness evolves. And if you've grown through life with grace, grit, and self-awareness, your kind of beauty becomes magnetic, undeniable. So let's talk about the 8 clear signs that you're not just aging. You're aging into something powerful and incredibly attractive. 1. You've learned to own your space. Attractive older women walk into a room and you feel them. Not because they demand attention, but because they no longer apologize for being who they are. They've spent years second-guessing themselves, trying to please others, trying to shrink to fit in. But now, they show up fully. They sit, speak, and move like they have every right to be there. Because they do. Kind of quiet confidence. That's sexy. 2. You don't chase, you attract. You've stopped begging for love, attention, or approval. You don't run after things that don't choose you back. You understand that your presence is a gift. And if someone can't see that, it's their loss. You let things flow, and that energy makes people lean in, because they can feel you're not desperate. You've mastered the art of knowing your worth without having to prove it. 3. You carry emotional maturity. Attractive women aren't ruled by drama or games. You've learned the value of peace. You've learned to listen before reacting. You respond instead of exploding. You can hold hard conversations without needing to be right all the time. That kind of emotional depth, that's rare, and it's something the world, especially good men, find irresistible. 4. You radiate self-respect. You don't lower your standards for anyone. You've been through too much to settle now. You protect your energy. You know what it took to build your peace, so you're not quick to let chaos in. You walk away when something doesn't serve you. That boundary, that strength, it tells people you respect yourself. And people who respect themselves always glow differently. 5. You dress for yourself, not the world. You've learned that style isn't about trends. It's about self-expression. You wear what makes you feel good. You no longer dress to impress someone else or seek approval. And because of that, there's a comfort in your skin, a natural elegance in your presence. People are drawn to that, not just to the outfit, but to the woman inside it. 6. You make people feel seen. You're not just attractive. You're deeply present. You ask questions. You care. You listen with your heart, not just your ears. You look people in the eye. You're not scrolling on your phone while someone's talking. That presence, it's rare, and people feel safe around you. They feel seen. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. 7. You bring joy instead of taking it. You've stopped complaining about everything. You've chosen gratitude, laughter, curiosity. You bring light into rooms. You're fun but not immature. You're kind but not naive. You uplift, not drain. People remember how you make them feel, and the way you move through the world makes it a little brighter. 8. You're unapologetically yourself. You no longer play small. You don't try to mold yourself to be more likable. You laugh loud if you want to. You cry when you need to. You speak your truth. You stand your ground. You embrace your quirks. You don't pretend to be someone you're not. And that kind of realness, that's gold. So, if you're wondering whether you're still attractive, let me say this clearly: your beauty isn't fading. It's unfolding. All the things you've learned, all the ways you've healed, all the boundaries you've built, all the joy you've chosen, it's written all over your face, your walk, your presence. And the right people see it. They feel it. They're drawn to it. They attract naturally by knowing their worth and never chasing validation. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's something that is built over time, through lessons learned, and through heart touch, through being overlooked, and through finally deciding that enough is enough. When a woman reaches a point in her life where she stops chasing after people's approval, she shifts into a whole new energy. She stops over-explaining. She stops texting first just to feel wanted. She stops trying to prove she's worthy of someone's love or attention. She begins to realize that the right people will naturally show up and stay, and the wrong ones were never meant to stay anyway. That shift from chasing to allowing is powerful. It creates an aura around her that people can't quite explain. They feel something different in her presence, something calm, steady, and grounded. She's not playing games, but she's also not begging anyone to choose her. This kind of woman understands that her energy is valuable. She understands that not everyone deserves access to her. She spent years giving too much, caring too quickly, and losing herself in relationships that didn't return the same level of effort. But now, she's no longer willing to trade her peace for temporary attention. She doesn't send a second message if someone left the first on read. She doesn't try to be louder just to be heard. She doesn't compete with other women for anyone's affection, because deep down that what she brings to the table is rare, and she's done convincing anyone of it. People are drawn to her not because she's trying hard to be liked, but because she's not trying at all. She simply is. And that effortless confidence, that natural magnetism, comes from deeply knowing her own value. She knows her standards, and she doesn't lower them just to avoid being alone. She'd rather be by herself and at peace than in a room full of people who don't appreciate her. That kind of inner stability is attractive beyond words. It communicates to others that she's not looking to be completed. She's whole already. When she enters a relationship, it's not from a place of needness or fear. It's from choice. She's no longer afraid of being misunderstood because she no longer needs to be understood by everyone. She's no longer addicted to being chosen because she's already chosen herself. And when you choose yourself, you stop waiting to be picked. That's when everything changes. That's when people start noticing. They notice her calm energy. They notice that she's not flustered when someone pulls away. They notice that she doesn't force connections. She simply lets what's real find its way to her. And because of that, the connections she does have are stronger, deeper, and more aligned. Attractive older women walk in self-assured silence. Their presence speaks before they do. They don't need to raise their voice, demand the spotlight, or perform to be seen. The moment they walk into a room, people take notice. Not because of anything loud or flashy, but because of the calm, grounded energy they carry. There's a quiet confidence in the way they stand, the way they look around without shrinking themselves, and the way they take up space with ease. They're not trying to be invisible, but they're also not trying to steal attention. They simply exist in a way that is undeniable. This kind of self-assurance doesn't come from compliments or outside approval. It comes from living through enough moments where they had to rely on their own strength. It comes from surviving rejection, disappointment, and loneliness, and still choosing to keep going. They've spent years learning who they are and what matters most to them. They've made mistakes, outgrown people, lost things they once thought they couldn't live without, and still managed to rebuild themselves. All of that experience lives in the way they carry themselves now. It's not arrogance. It's not pride. It's the kind of knowing that says, I've been through enough to stop pretending. When they walk, there's no rush. When they speak, there's no desperation. They've learned that silence can be just as powerful as words. They've learned that you don't have to prove anything when you're deeply secure in yourself. That energy draws people in. It makes others curious. It makes others listen more closely when they do speak. People instinctively sense that they're in the presence of someone who has done the inner work, someone who isn't faking confidence or borrowing it from how others treat them. You can see it in their eyes. There's a softness that comes from letting go of the need to impress, and a fire that comes from knowing they've already impressed themselves. They don't compete. They don't compare. They walk into every space with the mindset that they belong there, not because anyone told them so, but because they've learned to stop doubting it. That natural sense of belonging makes others feel comfortable around them too. It sets the tone. It shifts the energy in subtle but unforgettable ways. Even in moments of quiet, their energy speaks volumes. Even when they're not trying, they're still noticed. Not for what they wear or how they look, but for the presence they hold. They have nothing to prove, and that makes them powerful. People may not always be able to explain why they feel drawn to her, but they do. It's the result of years spent growing into someone who no longer needs to be loud to be heard or visible to be valuable. It's the result of someone who walks in self-assured silence and carries her experience like a crown no one sees, but everyone feels. They attract naturally by knowing their worth and never chasing validation. This kind of woman doesn't operate from desperation or insecurity. She isn't looking for someone to complete her or give her a sense of identity. She already knows who she is, what she stands for, and what she deserves. That self-awareness becomes her magnet. She doesn't need to constantly check her phone to see if someone texted her back. She doesn't refresh social media to count likes. She doesn't question her value based on who pays attention to her. Her self-worth isn't up for debate. It's rooted in something deeper than approval. She's lived enough life to understand that not everyone will appreciate her, and that's okay. She's not here to convince anyone to stay. She no longer bends herself to be what others want. She knows that the moment you start chasing someone's attention is the moment you hand over your power. And she's done doing that. She's done twisting into shapes for people who never really saw her. She's done lowering her standards just to be chosen. She's reached a point where she'd rather wait alone than settle for half-hearted love or shallow connections. She walks away with dignity when she feels disrespected, not because she's cold, but because she values herself too much to accept less. That kind of woman becomes incredibly attractive, not just to romantic partners, but to everyone. People are drawn to someone who doesn't need external validation to feel whole. They're drawn to the way she doesn't chase, but still ends up being chased. She has an energy that doesn't beg to be noticed, but still gets noticed. There's something powerful about someone who knows they are enough as they are, without needing confirmation from the outside world. She's the type of woman who gives compliments without fishing for them in return. She uplifts others without losing herself. She can celebrate someone else's success without feeling like it takes away from her own. When she enters a room, she doesn't scan for approval. She scans for alignment. She's not asking, "Do they like me?" She's asking, "Do they match my energy?" That shift in mindset changes everything. It protects her peace. It filters out situations that no longer serve her. And it allows her to remain centered, even when others try to pull her into chaos. She doesn't respond to manipulation or mixed signals. She doesn't chase clarity from people who confuse her. She lets go gracefully, and that grace speaks louder than any argument ever could. There's nothing more powerful than a woman who knows her worth so deeply that she becomes untouchable to things that once broke her. She doesn't rush. She doesn't cling. She doesn't need to be loud or flashy. She simply is, and that simplicity becomes a quiet kind of confidence that others find impossible to ignore. She doesn't just walk into someone's life hoping to be liked. She walks in already loving herself, and that changes the entire dynamic. Emotional maturity makes them calm, centered, and deeply magnetic. It's not just about having lived more years, it's about what those years have taught her. She doesn't react out of impulse. She doesn't jump to conclusions, start fights, or throw words like weapons just to make a point. She's been through the drama, the chaos, the confusion, and she's learned that peace is far more valuable than proving herself right. She chooses her battles. She thinks before she speaks. She listens with the intent to understand, not just to reply. That emotional depth shows up in every interaction, and it creates an atmosphere where people feel safe around her. She knows how to sit with discomfort without needing to fix or escape it immediately. She doesn't need constant reassurance because she knows how to self-soothe. She understands that emotions are not permanent, and she's learned how to navigate them instead of being ruled by them. This makes her steady in a world full of emotional turbulence. People feel her stability. They sense her groundedness. She's not thrown off by every little disagreement or inconvenience. She doesn't lose herself in panic when someone pulls away. She doesn't spiral into assumptions when things feel uncertain. She pauses. She observes, she gives space when it's needed, and she communicates with clarity when the time is right. This kind of woman isn't afraid of vulnerability, but she's also not reckless with it. She knows who deserves access to her deeper layers. She's not guarded, but she's wise. She doesn't tell her whole story to everyone she meets, because she's learned the value of emotional boundaries. She gives people the opportunity to earn her trust rather than offering it blindly. And when she does open up, it's with intention, not desperation. That kind of intentional openness creates connection on a level that most people are starving for but rarely experience. She doesn't just know how to express her feelings. She knows how to manage them. She's not emotionally avoidant, but she also doesn't create unnecessary drama to feel alive. She's honest about what she feels, but she delivers it in a way that builds connection instead of breaking it down. Her emotional maturity becomes a refuge for the people in her life. They turn to her not just because she listens, but because she understands. She can hold space for other people's emotions without needing to fix them or make it about her. She's the kind of person who doesn't panic when things don't go her way. She adapts, she reflects, and she responds with grace. She doesn't hold grudges or seek revenge. She lets go for her own peace. That ability to regulate herself emotionally makes her attractive in a world where emotional intelligence is still rare. People can feel that she's done the inner work. They know she won't explode over small things or make them responsible for how she feels. She brings calm instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion, and emotional safety instead of instability. Their self-respect sets clear boundaries that elevate their value. It's not about being cold or distant, but about knowing where the line is drawn and never being afraid to enforce it. A woman who respects herself doesn't tolerate disrespect in any form. She doesn't stay silent to keep the peace if something is hurting her. She's learned that saying no is not rude, it's self-care. She's not interested in pleasing everyone anymore. She's not scared to walk away from a situation, a friendship, or even a relationship that chips away at her self-worth. That strength doesn't make her hard, it makes her deeply secure. When she speaks, she's clear. When she says she needs time, space, honesty, or kindness, she means it. She doesn't apologize for her standards. She doesn't second guess herself when someone challenges them. She's done shrinking herself to fit into places that don't honor her. That kind of clarity is powerful. People know exactly where they stand with her. They know what is acceptable and what crosses the line. And because of that, she rarely has to repeat herself. Her energy does the talking. Her consistency sets the tone. She's not afraid to disappoint others if it means being true to herself. She's no longer available for emotional manipulation, guilt tripping, or begging for the bare minimum. She doesn't chase closure or explanations from people who walk away. She doesn't engage in games. She doesn't need to be validated through attention from people who don't genuinely care. She has created a space around herself where only respect, truth, and effort are allowed to enter. That space protects her. It empowers her. It gives her the freedom to live authentically without being pulled in 1,000 directions by people who don't have her best interest at heart. People often mistake her boundaries for being too tough, but those who understand her know that her heart is actually soft. It's just guarded with intention. She's been through enough to know what it feels like to be drained by one-sided relationships, so she no longer entertains connections that leave her feeling empty. She doesn't say yes when her heart means no. She doesn't keep people around out of habit or guilt. She doesn't explain her worth to anyone who refuses to see it. That kind of unwavering self-respect is rare and it commands attention. She doesn't put up walls, she puts up standards. And if someone isn't willing to meet them, she doesn't lower them, she lets them go. She holds herself to the same standards too. She treats others with kindness and fairness, but she doesn't let that be a reason to allow disrespect. She values her time, her energy, her body, and her emotions. And because she values those things, others begin to value them as well. Her boundaries aren't a defense mechanism. They're a reflection of how deeply she values her own peace and worth. They dress for self-expression, not attention. And it shows. It's not about wearing the trendiest outfit or having the most expensive bag. It's about how she carries herself in whatever she chooses to wear. Her style is not about impressing the world. It's about reflecting who she is inside. You can see her confidence in the way she dresses. She doesn't dress to compete with younger women or to gain approval from others. She dresses for how it makes her feel, powerful, elegant, grounded, or even playful. Her clothing choices come from a place of knowing herself, not from trying to be someone else. She no longer asks, when will they think of this? When picking out something to wear, she asks, does this feel like me? That shift changes everything. She doesn't wear clothes that make her uncomfortable just because they're considered sexy or trendy. She knows that true attractiveness comes from authenticity, and that includes how she presents herself to the world. She's not afraid to stand out, and she's not afraid to keep it simple. Her goal isn't to be seen. Her goal is to be herself, and ironically, that's exactly what makes her so visible. She understands that how she dresses is an extension of her self-respect. She doesn't overexpose herself to seek validation, but she doesn't hide behind oversized layers to shrink either. She finds the balance between comfort and beauty, between ease and expression. She wears her age like a badge of honor, not something to conceal. There's a glow about her not because of makeup or labels, but because of the quiet pride she takes in being exactly who she is. Whether it's a well-fitted jacket, a bold pair of earrings, or a timeless black dress, what she wears tells a story. It's not about chasing youth, it's about celebrating the woman she's become. Her style evolves with her. She's not stuck in the past trying to relive her 20s, and she's not overly focused on trends meant for people half her age. She creates her own lane. She knows what cuts flatter her body, what colors reflect her mood, and what textures make her feel alive. She wears clothes with confidence, not caution. Even on casual days, there's an intentionality to how she puts herself together. It's never just thrown on, it's chosen. And that sense of purpose, even in something as simple as getting dressed, sends a powerful message to the world. She doesn't need to be told she looks good to know it. She looks in the mirror and sees a woman who is fully herself, and that's more than enough. Her reflection is not a project, it's a celebration. When others see her, they feel the energy of someone who doesn't need approval, someone who is not performing, but simply expressing. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. It's not about seduction, it's about substance. And it's not about dressing to impress, it's about dressing to honor her own voice. They're unapologetically authentic, and that realness is irresistible. There's no pretending, no acting, no wearing masks to fit in with a crowd. They don't change their opinions just to avoid disagreement. They don't smile when they don't feel like smiling. They've grown into the kind of woman who says what she means and means what she says. There's a sense of freedom in the way she shows up because she's no longer interested in being who people expect her to be. She's let go of the need to be liked by everyone, and in doing so, she's stepped into a version of herself that is deeply real, deeply grounded, and deeply magnetic. She doesn't water herself down to make others comfortable. She speaks honestly but kindly, she sets boundaries without guilt, she laughs loudly if something is funny to her, even if others find it silly. She cries when she needs to cry, without apologizing for being too emotional. She embraces the parts of her that are soft and the parts that are fierce. She's no longer at war with her own personality. What once felt like flaws now feel like powerful traits. Her sensitivity becomes her strength, her boldness becomes her beauty. Her quirks become her charm. She doesn't edit herself anymore because she knows that real connection only happens when people are brave enough to be seen for who they truly are. People feel safe around her because they know she's not pretending. There's nothing to figure out, no second guessing her intentions. She shows up as the same person in every room. She's not trying to become more appealing to fit into a certain group. She's not trying to hide the things that make her different. In fact, she's learned to love those things. What makes her unique is exactly what makes her beautiful. There's no comparison game, no quiet envy, no trying to imitate someone else's path. She's in her own lane, and she walks it with pride. Being authentic doesn't mean being harsh or inflexible. It means being honest with herself first. She knows what she wants, what she believes in, and what she won't tolerate. She's okay with being misunderstood by some because she'd rather be real and rejected than fake and accepted. That kind of courage draws in the right people. It filters out the ones who only connect on the surface. It opens the door to deeper relationships, better opportunities, and a life that actually feels aligned. She's the kind of woman who doesn't shift her identity based on who's watching. She's consistent, not performative. She doesn't chase trends or follow the crowd. She trusts her gut, even when it goes against what others expect. She honors her values, even when they make her stand alone. And in a world full of people trying to fit in, her refusal to compromise who she is makes her unforgettable. There's power in her truth. There's beauty in her realness. There's something captivating about someone who is completely, unapologetically themselves.